Power. When we hear the word, we think of power in the world around us. People in power, powerful systems, the power of nature. What we don't realize is power is us. It's personal, passionate, and full of possibilities. This is Nicole Devlin, host of From the Nth Power podcast, a business and life coaching podcast that helps stuck, intelligent, overthinking mid-career professionals find powerful and purposeful work, giving you the freedom to live your most successful life. You have the power to love what you do, which starts by creating professional and personal growth alignment that will propel your life forward. Not creating this correlation leads to being stuck and unhappy, no matter how much you achieve. From the Nth Power is a new business foundation around your power and values. With a focus on self-actualization, Nicole will help you enhance your career or grow your business, creating a vocation that gives you the confidence and leadership to become whoever you desire. Well, hi, everybody. This is Nicole Devlin, and this is From the Nth Power podcast, where we talk about power of a personal nature that you can grow once you recognize that it actually exists already within you. And so the podcast invites people to look at things, their lives, their work, their families, out of the box that they've been living in, which might be limited and which might be making them feel powerless. And if you're feeling powerless, you're not going to really be energized enough to make the changes in your life you need to make. And so in this podcast, I talk about personal power attached to the idea of learning basic self-awareness through self-examination, understanding there are greater powers in you and outside, and then finding purpose in your life to help you bring those things together and learn more about yourself so that you can be more of yourself in the world and ideally help other people on the path who need what you have. So this week, we're talking to Dr. Lynn Anderson, and Lynn is a naturopath, and she does yoga therapy, and she's a Kharma master and a published author, and really invested in holistic health modalities. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Anderson, aka Lynn, to introduce herself briefly.
Well, thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here, Nicole. It's really fun. I wanted to say, power.
Yeah.
One of the things that Karma Yoga teaches us is that there are these treasures that we find when we're here. And one of the treasures is power. And power is something that we all have. We don't all know it, but it's when we find that power. And then what Karma challenges us with is, what do you do with that power? Yeah. So that's a very important element so I'm very happy to have you open with talking about power. Such an important thing to talk about. But again, yes. Yeah.
It really is. And I'll tell you what, everybody had their own form, their own version of it. But the past couple of years, and this is why I want to talk about this so badly, is because the past couple of years, I've just watched so many people feel stuck. Right. And stuck is synonymous with feeling powerless, feeling like your life is out of control, feeling like you don't have choice, feeling like you're not capable of making decisions, feeling like some other entity, authority, person, situation, job has power, domain, or authority over you. Those are all positions of powerlessness. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you is because of karma, like this idea of being a karma master really intrigued me. And so let's just get into that really, like this idea of karma and karmic healing. So explain, because I'll tell you what, also for me, when I think like karma or heretofore or before the past couple of years would think karma is like, oh, if I do something bad, it's coming back to bite me, right? And I think that a lot of people have that misperception and they don't really know what it is. So maybe you can define it and then literally like make it something that the regular person listening to this who might be feeling stuck or powerless doesn't understand about karma and how it can help them, deal with and possibly heal from some of their own personal negative experiences.
Okay. Well, karma, first off, is about energy. And it's really cause and effect. And, karma removes judgment. It is not what we call the pop culture, good karma, bad karma. If I punch you, you're going to punch me. It's not that at all. It's really about, if you think about cause and effect. So if I do something, there will be an effect. And I have to pay for the consequences. And a really easy way to understand that, as I've explained to other people, is let's say I go out and I steal something. but I never get caught. I'm still a thief.
Right.
I still carry that energy with me. And for the rest of my life, I'm going to be looking over my shoulder. You know what I mean? Is anybody watching me? I'm going to have to make up lies and things. So you can see how that energy builds. And maybe I never get that direct punishment because everybody goes, well, you stole, you should get caught. That's karma. That's not karma. I've created a karmic energy that is creating stress and taking away my power. And I have to carry that with me through life. You know, life becomes what life does. You
Right.
are it, you are what you create.
Yeah. That's awesome. And, yeah, this concept of getting away with it, it's so interesting because, I was even thinking this morning about paying taxes. And I was thinking about like some of my ideas that have shifted or as I've become a business owner, as opposed to a W-2 employee, right? Where like taxes were taken out of my paycheck. Now I pay taxes. And I don't even know why I was thinking about this. It's not even tax season. But I was thinking about like people that like lie on their taxes or fudge or don't quite pay as much or find ways to get around the system. And it's interesting because past couple of, like before it would have been like the moral police about stuff like that. Like, how could you think you're getting away with that? And that's ridiculous. And everybody has to do the same thing. And it's interesting how life changes because my sense of karma is that I'm not worried about any authority. If I was to like fudge or lie or try and beat the system by not paying taxes, I'm not worried about like Mama IRS coming to knock on my door. I'm actually worried about whether or not I feel bad about doing it. And the truth is that that's something that is very powerful because I do want to decide what my moral code is. And I would ideally like that to be based in my own intrinsic sense of a higher power. And that's super hard to come by, or has been super hard to come by, because I feel like my sense of morality or my moral code is tied up with some things I don't necessarily believe in or subscribe to that may be societal or religious. And so this sense of karma in terms of cause and effect, it feels more natural. And the way you describe it as energy is like, because energy is not judgmental. Energy is not I'm good or I'm bad. Energy is all about what I feel about myself and the actions I take, and then the consequences that come as a result of those actions. And I think that when I am revising, as you've been talking about revising the definition of karma, it really is very much that, me having a sense of personal responsibility tied to a higher self, higher consciousness, that comes to understand that when I do something that is not in line with who I want to be, I feel bad about it. And I can act like, oh, I didn't get caught, so I got away with it. But that feeling bad about myself is taking up space inside me. And it's rearranging my physical DNA to then thereafter consequently produce other negative outcomes in my life, my health, my relationships. And I think this is a good time to actually talk about naturopathy, right? Like, because when I harbor things, conscious or unconscious, they are affecting my equilibrium and my ability to like myself and to be happy or achieve balance. So let's switch over into naturopathy, another thing that I don't quite understand, and how that feeds my happiness in terms of the way that you do it or practice it.
Okay. Well, naturopathic medicine really subscribes to the fact that we're a part of nature. That's how we evolve in nature. We don't evolve in chemicals. We don't evolve, in this world that we find ourselves in, but we have evolved through nature. And because we are a part of nature, it's in our best interest to eat good foods, to keep the body moving, to use the natural sciences. The really easy one for everyone to understand is, nature created sunlight, and we need sunlight to live. And sunlight comes down, and what does it do? It produces vitamin D, for example. So naturopathy is about using the natural sciences to bring balance to the body, the mind, and the soul, because we believe that you are a tripart being. You are not a body over here and a mind over here and a soul over here, which is traditionally how we treat people. We go medical, we go psychological, we go religious. Naturopathy says they're all intertwined and they all need to be balanced and together. And when you integrate and find yourself balanced as one, then you have perfect health, body, mind, and soul.
So how do you see, like, for example, things like, when unforeseen natural events happen, like, how are we a part of that? And how do we understand those events better in a way that develops mastery instead of feeling helpless about
Mhm.
nature? Because I also feel like I'm a part of this, and whatever's happening, I'm in it, and things are going to happen. And I trust that nature as a source is balancing things out, even when there's devastation. But what is your point of view, if you even have one, about that?
Right. Well, the thing to remember is we live in a chaotic world.
Yeah.
Energy is chaos, okay? It's moving and it's flowing all around, and it's what we do with the energy, how we manipulate and move the energy around. And in that chaos, there is destruction and creation. That is the nature of life. It has been since the beginning of time, and it is never going to change. You will never not have devastating natural events. You will never not have war. That is human nature. This is what we live in. So
Yeah.
according to karma, we step into this environment, and our goal is to find that place we can find peace and serenity and dance amongst the destruction and the creation, because that's life. So we look at things like what's going on in Maui, and we send our blessings out to those people. What a horrible thing they are going through right now. But it is all part of nature's course. And it's not up to us to question. It's
Right.
up to us to do the best we can here on earth, because none of us know when we're departing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I was talking with one of my students today. She's going through a lot of anxiety and stuff. And I said, you have to remember, when you depart this world, you don't take any of the dramas, any of the problems, any of the stress. You don't take it with you.
Yeah.
So why do we let it burden us and hold us down while we're here on earth? Part of human nature to worry, that's part of human nature. And that's what we're here for, is to work through, to have an awareness of those things and then be able to work those things through.
I love that idea. It's not up to us to question. It's like, and yet there's also this part of me that's like, I question everything. But then there's some things, like, it's really funny. You know what I question? I question the little, what we'll call, the broken shoelace stuff that feels really personal. Like, why is this happening to me right now? And I actually, dissimilar to other people, I don't question the bigger stuff, as devastating as it might be. I mean, and I can go big devastation, global pandemic, 9/11. I mean, there's times where you see things as the way you describe destruction and chaos, that bring about new life and new ways of being. Because every major change that's ever happened to our civilization across the span of time has usually been brought out by a lot of chaos, by a lot of destruction, and by everything from an act of nature to a single voice rising up out of that chaos to bring forth something new. And it's profound, really, when you look at it that way, to see across and even like procreation and birth, right? Like, how many millions of sperm like shoot up there to like hit the egg, and millions die, but one survives and makes it in. I mean, it's like that act of creation is almost like the most massive act of destruction, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point. Destruction isn't, we think of destruction as bad. It's not. It's good to destroy hate. It's really good to destroy certain things and have that in your wheelhouse, in your mindset. But what karma teaches us is, when we're here, we get caught up in the Maya. We get caught up in thinking these things are real. They're not. Things are presented to us to work on ourselves. We can't be aware of those things unless nature presents it to us. Nature has to present us that chaotic energy so that we find within ourselves our own power to be able to manipulate and move that energy in ways that, first off, does no harm to anyone, and second, does the greatest good for the greatest many.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you bring me back also to, I had this friend that had a contentious relationship with her mother, and every time her mother came to visit, she got sick. And I didn't like, the first time I was like, oh, I'm sorry you feel so bad. And then the third or fourth time I was like, have you noticed this? Like, every time, like, you're never sick until she comes to town. And, I mentioned that because I fully and adamantly believe that emotions become physical. that like if they don't get released, and I think people misperceive that in, for example, your stance, which is I believe the same thing. If I don't feel it, I'm not seeking to get away with my feelings. I'm not like, buck up, Chuck, and get over yourself. No way. Like if I felt emotional right now, I would cry. I would not stop it. Like my emotions are a stream that I allow to move. And if they're stuck, what happens is they get stuck in parts of my body, and my incapacity to release them harms me, either in the immediate sense, like when this woman's mother would come and she'd feel sick, or in the long term through like whatever gastrointestinal illness and other types of maladies within the body that, if you ask me, are a result of like unresolved karma in the form of like not understanding the cause and effect of the way I live and the ways that I think. You know, like I have another friend who I always call her like this, like you did something to me, now I do something back. I'm like, you're like a little mafioso over there. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, all right, you know, well, Luca's gonna sleep with the fishes. Like, you know, you don't need to live your life like that. You know, like, it's not like about like, oh, they screwed me, so I gotta screw them. And that's also a very like New Yorkish thing. It's fundamentally, I have found very, very harmful. And yet I'm going to just pop another question in here that's like, I find myself frequently, either I don't know if I want to say misunderstood, as if the action is being done toward me, or I am misunderstanding how some people feel about their feelings, where it's like, but I have a right to be angry, and that somehow asking themselves to release it is somehow that same kind of scorekeeping, like letting the other person off the hook. And I don't believe that's accurate. This is not about the other person, as you mentioned. I need to let myself off the hook so that my well is emptier to be able to fill up and radiate with love and light and the things that are actually more benevolent. Because those same people who are like, I have a right to be angry, are always like, you know, with the positivity quotes all over the place. Look at mine. Oh, look at mine here. But you know, the positivity quotes, like, everybody needs to be kinder to people. And I'm like, what about being kind to yourself by acknowledging that emotion and allowing yourself to release it? Like, so what's your experience in working with people who maybe are kind of in that space where they get stuck in their feelings and feel like if they release it, they're somehow letting someone off the hook, or, you know, that their emotions or the harm is unrequited?
Right. Well, two things. First off, karma teaches us that one of the things that blocks us from being able to work through and get to that peaceful place is blocking feelings. So we should not block feelings. You and I are human beings. And as human beings, we chose to come here. And part of the deal is you got to feel everything and experience everything that it means to be a human being. And that means you do need to experience hate. You do need to experience anger. We all need to experience all those things. It's what you do with those things. Talking about letting someone off the hook, that's kind of like the other thing is there's something called the troublesome four that we all have to deal with, and they're called envy, jealousy, resentment, and revenge. Boy, those are powerful guys, really powerful.
Big time.
And it's the ego that comes in. The ego plays in each one of those. So we're constantly battling the ego in control, or do we come and deal with the soul? And the ego is very important, as I tell my students. You don't want to get rid of the ego, because your ego is here to protect you. It is a wonderful thing. It is here to protect you, and it will tell you, no, don't stay away from that's going to hurt you. But what happens is we fall into what's called the Maya. So I think that my perception of the world is the only perception, and it's the real perception, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Biases, prejudices, all of that comes in, rather than stepping back. And, you know, you and I, we're both Americans, we're both women, you know, we're around the same age, you know, we have a lot of the same experiences, but your life is totally different than my life. Right. Your path is unique and my path is unique. I cannot project my stuff onto you. It doesn't work, you know, but I mean, even if we share some things, which we do. So that is being able to kind of bring that ego down and say, wait a minute, my reality isn't the reality. You know, I don't have all the answers. I need to humble myself a little bit
Yeah.
and listen to other people and be open.
Oh, absolutely. Totally. And, I can find, you talk about whatever we have in common, like age and race and, nationality. And then the truth is like, I might relate more to someone who's like, let's say a young Black male or whatever, that's not from the East Coast, that's from the West Coast, or someone who in those categories are a polar opposite. And I think the point is though, like that openness, I get the sense that like, and going to this idea of radiance, right? Like
Mhm.
I feel I want to, I had this conversation with my mom yesterday. I talked to her about a lot of things, and I sometimes get frustrated that people can't see all the avenues for growth that are in front of them. And that I feel like the world just keeps saying, oh, no, it's okay that you feel bad. Oh, no, we need to make people more aware of these things, suicide, depression, mental health, or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, there's so awareness in like every other post. I don't know how much more awareness we can build. I don't necessarily believe awareness is the problem. It's appropriate action and change that is often the problem. And I also believe that appropriate action and change comes from within me as an individual before I can even think about how to change systems. I believe that these ideas are simple and that they're available for anybody who wants them. Try these ideas out. Like try on the feeling that like you don't have to stay angry. Try on the feeling that your mother isn't the most narcissistic criminal that ever walked the planet. Try on something else, because from there, you can really grow your life and become the change you want to see in the world. I mean, that is a great, great, great expression, is becoming the change you want to see in the world. This is how people don't understand also, if you want to use your ego to keep you in pain, use this little beast in your head to also figure out how to get you healthier, because it can be used for anything. It's that powerful. Like I have ego that's like, oh, you lazy thing, you didn't go to the gym. What's the matter
Yeah,
with
yeah.
you? Or when I fail, and there are a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't do shame and guilt. I'm like, oh, I do. Oh, I do. Although, like I loved what you said about the spectrum of emotions. We're here to feel all of it: hate, bias, love, success, failure. I feel like my capacity to love has come from my capacity to really hate, if even only in myself. Like my capacity to be successful has come from failing. And in fact, the failure made me so much more appreciative of any blessing when I succeed at anything at all, making a little money here, helping someone over there, feeling my business really serves people. It's so, even just looking at this picture and having that like emotional and what I almost call like humble and graceful feeling of like, wow, I really do have this great life. And it's just this picture of me in a tank and shorts on a Sunday afternoon after I just ate some hamburgers, like it wasn't like I just like graduated from the university or traveled across Europe. And in fact, I've done those things too. But it's like these little, in the same way, the little shoelaces, like I was mentioning, can bring me down. The little itty bitty things that make me smile or feel grateful can raise me up, Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes in our society, we have a very materialistic society, and we live in a society of comparison. We also live in a society of victimhood, and we are also inundated with social media. And I spent 30 years in Los Angeles, and in Los Angeles, I produced a TV show, I produced DVDs. I know how it works. I know how Photoshop works. I know how good makeup and lighting works.
Yeah.
And you want to scream at people and say, it's not real.
Yeah.
What you're seeing is not real, and because we compare ourselves to them. And you can never, ever, ever get there unless you have the same makeup person, the same lighting, the same stuff. So it's coming back to that place of being happy and content, like you said, with the little things. Because every time you start to pile up those little things, you all of a sudden it gets big. That pile gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And you have a choice. You can pile that up. The universe has a saying, everything must be fed.
Yeah.
If I feed myself positive, and good things and appreciate, pretty soon that's who I am.
Yeah.
But if I feed myself the opposite, if I'm down and I'm dead, that's what I become. And who wants to be around me? No one.
No.
But if I'm like this, if I'm happy and I'm up there, guess what? Money comes to you. opportunity comes to you, love comes to you, all of the things that we want. Because why? When you walk in a room, if you walk in and someone's really happy and they're warm and they got a smile, and someone's grumpy in the corner, who are you going to hang out with?
That's right.
Right? Yeah.
It's like a magnet, really. The person that has that energy when they walk into a room really magnetizes other people. So let's talk also about like success and money. Because we do live in a materialistic world where, I mean, one of the conundrums or, sort of, let's call it gaps that I had early in my coaching career was like, okay, I know that what I do is good. I know that who I am helps. I know I'm in it for all the right reasons, but I didn't do as well financially as I had projected or thought, right? And I think part of that is the transition, which can be challenging, going from a 9 to 5, money goes in digits in your bank account every 2 weeks, to working on your own. It's a huge, huge mindset change. And in my case, it kicked up all my scarcity and my lack of understanding at that particular point in time of cause and effect karma. So like, what do you think is, and I also believe that money is energy, right? Like it's just wealth, money, but then, for example, from the karmic perspective, from your understanding, what is the relationship between wealth and karma? Like if I'm not experiencing as much wealth, or me or anybody, I mean, I use myself as an example, as much wealth or success as I think I should be having, is it because I'm harboring some negative or obviously you said karma is just energy, it's not either good or bad, but obviously in that case I'm saying to myself, am I harboring bad karma or scarcity, or like, so what does that energy look like to you and for you when someone comes to you for help around success or money?
Well, karma and yoga, contrary to what people think, that you're supposed to go live an austere life somewhere and not own anything, it's really not. It doesn't mean that. Karma wants you to go out. I want you to prosper in the world. I want you to be wealthy, because if we stop for a minute and we think about a wealthy society, we can have art, we can have education, we can have good medical. I mean, it's wonderful to live in a prosperous, wealthy world. Much better than living in an impoverished world. We have so much more. And it's not wealth that's the problem, it's greed. So we have to remember that it's greed. But creating wealth and prosperity is potential energy. And potential energy, we all have that. But we tend to, oh, I can't do that. Oh, you know what? I shouldn't. Am I being greedy if I want to be wealthy? We get all caught up in this stuff. Well, I'll never make that money, or I'll never be successful at this. And we have to have those failures. We have to fail in order to succeed. Potential energy, like any energy, if you keep moving energy and moving energy, pretty soon it gives way.
Right.
And it says, okay, I'm done. You won. You've got it. But most people give up way before they reach that. And they don't realize that it is a lifelong thing. Persistency and consistency. Over and over and over again. So when people say to me, oh, you're so successful and you've done all, I say, I've been doing this for 40 years. And I started out as a single mother with 2 children on welfare.
Right.
So, I didn't have a rich daddy that handed me everything. I worked my way up, and I kept that mentality, potential mentality, and I kept moving it up. And today I live in a beautiful home. I've traveled the world. I'm a very, very fortunate woman, but it's moving the energy.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, because everything is energy and nothing is wasted. Really, like, I do not believe any moment of my life has ever been wasted. And I did have, when I was younger, some forms of regret, like, oh, why did I like that guy who didn't want me?
Yeah.
Why did I stay in that stupid job putting up with that asshole? Like, but yet, once again, like, even like thinking about that I worked for this woman once, and she was very powerful and influential in public relations, and she was very good at what she did. And she was angry and mean. And I'm like, I hadn't really experienced that. I mean, most of my work relationships, even if I ended up leaving for any number of reasons, I've never really at work attracted like really anybody like her. That was unusual. And it was just like, even looking back, I could say to myself, that was really, really helpful to me because she moved me from that place to another place, which precipitated a whole bunch of events happening in my life. You know what I mean? That what, one thing led to another, which led to another, which led to another. And I could see the absolute perfection. And I think that, moving kind of towards the end, there are things that concern me in the world. And there are ways that people perceive things and view things that make me like cringe. I'm going to be honest. Like the other day, somebody made a very benign comment about some public speaker figures out there that they liked. And they say, these people, what they say really makes sense. I really like listening to them. That was it. And one of these comments was just about that these people actually hurt people with their words, and that they are actually, by seeing things the way they see things and telling people to just pull them up by their bootstraps, that they are in fact doing harm. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so outside the spectrum of what I believe. Like it's called free speech. Like you want to say what you want to say it. If 1 million people follow that person, that doesn't mean that they're right. I don't care if it's Mahatma Gandhi or Tony Robbins or, Maya Angelou or MLK or any number of figures that were highly influential that did do good in the world. That doesn't mean that everybody agreed with them, but it meant that their ideas are able to move people. And it's okay if you don't or didn't like any of those people's ideas. They were still meant to come to pass, and their ideas were still meant to be as powerful as they were. So when you think and talk about karma and how other people's karma has really like helped to move the world along, I think we're in a period where I would like to think the past couple of years have been part of the destruction that we've been talking about. And that what's on the horizon is recovery or healing and you've been at this for 40 years. So I'm going to shut up and let you talk about what about different cycles in the world and how energy and destruction and chaos have led to healing, and how karma plays a part in when the world is troubled to the extent that I feel like it is right now.
Right. Again, it's really just, it's all this chaos, and it's never going to change. And I'll give you a good example. I was watching yesterday and something on TV, and they did a flashback to the hippie movement and the civil rights. And of course, that's me. I'm an old hippie, and I was part of fighting for civil rights and fighting for women's rights. And we believed what we were doing, and we moved forward. But I can remember the generation saying, oh, it's the destruction of America. It's falling apart. These kids today. And here we are looking at what's going on and going, oh my God, these kids today, So really, we look at it and we go, oh, the world, it's going to fall apart. But it isn't any different than it's ever been.
Right.
And that's the thing. And when it's not going to change. And by saying it's not going to change, that's not a negative. That's not, oh my God, there's going to be wars forever. I thought we were going to have, nirvana. Nirvana doesn't exist here on Earth. Right. It does not exist here. Yeah. It exists within you. Right. That's where it is. It's within you. Excuse me. It's not out into the world. And so when we're here, it's not about trying to change the whole world, because you can't do it. You're one person. You can get behind a movement. Yeah. And you can get behind a movement that you believe in. And yes, there will be people that criticize that movement and will be against that movement, maybe for good cause. I mean, certainly people were behind Hitler. Right. Hitler had right. Most people would not support Hitler, but it was a cause, and he was able to move the world in a direction. Right. We'll use Hitler again. Hitler was a great addition to the world because Hitler taught us how horrible human beings are capable of being. Yeah. And the nature says, you got to see this. You got to have this in your face. Yeah. Because how else can you have any compassion? Right. How else can you have humility? How else can you have kindness if you don't see such horror? Yeah. And that's it, and it's hard because none of us want to look at that, But those are the things that give us a choice. I can choose to be a horrible person like that, or I can look at that and say, never.
Yeah.
I am kind. I respect every human being. I will never. I have that choice. Isn't it wonderful that I have a choice?
Yeah. Absolutely. And, back to the theme of power, the reason I believe that he was able to create and perpetuate that type of destruction was because before that time, he did a lot of good. And there were aspects of him that were like great for the German economy. He was a great orator. I'm not going to call him a great leader. He led people, large amounts of people with powerful messages and powerful images and powerful concepts that society was receptive to hearing because they had already experienced a lot of economic destruction and societal destruction from the First World War. So you really have to pull back and like examine things from that cause and effect karma, because nothing is all good and nothing is all bad. Like my life, depending on like a simple choice or a simple event, can go way this way, to the kind of karma that I love and I feel blessed, or way this way to the kind of karma where I feel like a victim. And in this moment, like these things are going to happen. And it's my job to understand the cause and effect going on in the universe, and then to align myself with the healing and the type of karma that doesn't judge that I want to have in my life, which is to see the good, grow the good, be the good, serve the good, and pass on the good. Right? Like that's that. And even good as a word is like relative and perceptual these days, right? Because at the same time, some people are like, oh, well, it's good to be this way. Like I'm in the coaching and like self-help therapeutic industry, let's call it, you know what I mean? And sometimes I even look around at some of the people who are doing the work I'm doing, and I'm like, are we helping here? Am I helping? Is it, and the weight, and that's it. But actually that's again, the beauty of something like the self-help or the healing or the spiritual or the, yoga or coaching movements, is it allows everybody to do those things in their own way. Right? So that the person who needs you and your healing may not need your counterpart over on the other side of your town who teaches yoga in a different fashion, and vice versa. So if there's anything that you're working on, let the audience know, or whoever's listening know, either about any particular workshops you have coming up, and or any ways that you would like them to reach out or get in touch with you, social media, email, phone number, etc. Shameless plug.
Okay. Well, if they go to my website, it's drlynn.com, and it's spelled out DOCTORLYNN.com. You will find there's a place where you can register for my online classes. I also have private consultation, which you can do there. You can read all about the backstory about me, my books and my DVDs, everything there. All my social media handles are all there. So going to the website is pretty easy to sort of know everything, almost everything about me.
All right. So it's Dr. Lynn, spelled out DOCTORLYNN.com. And my name is Nicole Devlin, and I am at NICOLEDEVLIN.com. This podcast is called From the Nth Power. I love talking to individuals and businesses who seek greater purpose, greater vocation, greater expression of self. I primarily work with people seeking that expression through and in their work or in creating a small business. But I also help people on the individual level. And I do this podcast just out of pure joy to talk about these things such as power and healing and karma that I know that are going to be the next phase of evolution of humanity, and ideally going to take us to the next greatest place that we want to be as human beings. So thanks again, Lynn, for joining me. And thanks everybody for watching. This is From the Nth Power, and I hope you have a great day.